The Story of Me is brought to you by Liuna, Ontario Provincial District Council. Liuna, feel the power. Greetings. The life path of our guest is a study in contrasts. He's gone from experiencing the grim life of a concentration camp to the uncompromising path of freedom, filled with many, and I mean many, adventures. And then some. Today, we welcome Tom Groeneveld. Hello, sir.
Hello. As they say, Chinese curse, may you live an interesting life.
You may, and you have lived an interesting life. I feel like calling you Sir Tom Groeneveld.
Yeah.
Because Sir, sometimes it's attributed to people that have had tremendous adventures, like Sir Edmund Hillary.
Michael Palin, I guess, yeah.
And Michael Palin, yeah. Now, I dared to describe your life path in 10 seconds, and I'm sure I didn't do a good job. How would you describe your life path in one brief sentence?
A very impetuous journey with lots of impetuous decisions going from one way to the other, and sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. But as they say in Afrikaans, alles zal recht komen. Everything will turn out all right. And it always does.
And that's life, isn't it? Impetuous, eh? That's interesting. You were born in Indonesia. Now, Indonesia, at the time that you were born, was a Dutch colony, right?
Yes.
Okay. So your parents, both your parents were Dutch?
My parents were Dutch. My mother was born in Amsterdam. My father was born in Bandung, close to Jakarta, on the island of Java.
Yeah.
My grandfather was Dutch. He also was in Indonesia.
Yeah. Now, you had one brother.
Yeah.
Now, during World War II, the Japanese invaded Indonesia. And I think in a conversation we had before, you told me that all inhabitants of Dutch origin were either placed in a concentration camp or they were forced into hard labor. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So your father went to Burma.
He worked on the Burma Railroad.
To work on the railroads, sent there by the Japanese. And then your mom, you and your brother were taken to a concentration camp.
Yeah,
all
the women and children under 10 went into the women's camp.
Yeah, you were 4 at the time.
Yeah, something like that, 3, 4.
I guess the obvious question is, life in the concentration camp. You were 4 when you started. You were there for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Can you recall the living conditions?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of freedom. No school, nothing. I mean, it wasn't a bad time for kids because we didn't know any better. It was wonderful. Lots of freedom.
Yeah.
We roamed around. We were the only ones who could get outside the gates of the camp, the kids.
Uh-huh.
So we went out there and collected food, wild potatoes and sugar cane and things like that. So
Yeah.
and then we got some candy for if you got a bottle of flies, if you killed carried, and we ate rats and snakes and all that stuff.
You could not then describe the conditions as terrible.
Not for me, but for the rest of the camp, it was terrible.
Was it?
I mean, the Japanese are incredibly cruel, worse than the Germans, I think.
Yeah. Now, something really sad happened to you at the concentration camp. Your mom passed away.
Yeah, she died just before the end of the war, yeah. May 1945 or so, yeah.
What happened to her?
Oh, just malnutrition. berry. Yeah, a lot of people died in the camps, you know.
Yeah.
There was no food, no good food, no cleanliness, no hygiene. No,
This
Japanese
was
were tough, especially towards women.
yeah. This was tough for you because you were already what 7.5 at the time when your mom died.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Yeah. Did she have a long illness or
I can't remember all
you
that.
cannot remember?
I think she did, yeah.
Yeah. Now, so you're left with your brother in 1945.
Now, no, 45 we left the camp
That's right.
and we went to Medan, which is the capital city of Sumatra, and we stayed there until February 46.
Yeah.
We lived in a big house. I went to see it actually when I went to Indonesia.
Ah.
It's now the French consulate.
So you and your brother stayed where?
We stayed, well, my mother's friend was a school teacher, and we stayed with her, and she took care of us. And then in 46, we went with the Noordam, a Dutch ship. We went to Holland. And we
Yeah,
stayed.
both of you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you went to Holland to live with...
With the friend of my mother. She stayed with her mother, lived in Holland and had a house.
Yeah.
So we stayed there for about a year, I think.
How was life right after the war, after you were liberated from the concentration camp? Were you okay?
No, if it would have been half a year longer, we wouldn't have made it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Well, malnutrition, sickness. I had everything, typhoid, diphtheria, whooping cough, measles, you name it.
You didn't go to school right away, did you?
No, I had to stay in bed for half a year in Holland before I went to bed, before I got to school.
In bed for 6 months?
Yeah, and then, even then, for about a year and a half, I could only go to school in the morning. I was the smallest kid in the class until second year high school.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you were traumatized?
I have no idea. I think, yeah, somewhere, but, you know, but I think you should get over it, you know, it's the past. Nothing you can do about it.
That's true.
That's forget about it.
You lived with your aunt for about a year. And then you told me in a previous conversation that you lived then in a series of foster homes.
Yeah, well, not always foster homes. Like I think from the friend of my mother, we went to her oldest sister. We stayed there for a year. And then we stayed with somebody else somewhere. And somewhere. Yeah. I saw a lot of Holland traveling, living here and there.
Okay, your father was no longer in Burma. Where was he at this stage?
He came in 47. He came from Holland.
Ah.
He didn't even, he didn't even know if we were alive or not. Actually, the funniest thing was we went to pick him up from the railroad station in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And when we were in the camp, we had a tiny little picture with him with a black or a dark blue tie with white dots. So anyhow, so we were on the train, and all the train came, and there came a guy with a polka dot tie.
Yeah.
And he said, "Daddy, Daddy," and it was him.
It was, yeah.
I mean,
did he recognize you?
No, of course not.
Yeah.
From 2 till 7.
So did you eventually and your brother live with him?
Yeah, eventually we did. He got remarried in 53, so, and then we lived with him, but for me it wasn't a very good idea.
No?
No, because she had a son of her own, and she was a mean...
You're talking about your stepmother?
Stepmother, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow...
You didn't get along with her?
No. I refused to call her mother and all that stuff. No, I was a difficult child, very independent.
Independent doesn't mean necessarily difficult.
Well, I was difficultly independent.
Now, in your biography, you say, at age 17, I ran away from school and home and became a sailor.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I played field hockey in Holland.
Yeah.
And I was left wing, and my left inside was president of a big shipping company. So one day I said, "Hey, Jerry, I don't want to go to school. Can I get a job?" So he said, "Sure." So he said, "Come and see me in my office." So he had an office in the penthouse in Amsterdam, and he said, "What time it is?" I said, 5 after 12. So little bell, and the somebody came in, 2 sherry, please.
Yeah.
And that guy gave me a job as a apprentice, stuurman,
Apprentice sailor.
no, apprentice mate.
Ah, okay. Now, you said you didn't want to go to school.
No,
Why?
well, better things to do in life.
Yeah. Did you get the bug to
Oh,
travel?
no, I know what happens. I failed school that year, and my father got me a job in a bank. And after 2 months in the bank, I said, the bank manager came and said, well, we'll give you a $10 raise. And I said, well, don't worry, you keep it because I'm leaving.
Yeah. So the bank was not for you. You were too tied down, which you didn't want, right?
No, I've been in a bank. What is a job in a bank as a junior clerk, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Now, you sailed for almost 2 years.
yeah, almost 2 years.
And you
yeah.
started traveling. You went to Russia, Finland, Sweden, France, Wales, the United States. Um,
Wonderful, yeah.
and is this when you got the bug to sail and travel?
No, I don't know, you know. I mean, I was born in Indonesia and we moved to Holland, so, you know, Dutch are sailing nation, so.
Yeah.
And I think
It was
somehow-
part of your culture, right?
Yeah, somewhere I found out that my great-great-grandfather was a sea captain with one hand had a hook.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think we had a painting somewhere with my grandfather. My grandfather had a painting, so I don't know. Maybe it's true, but se non è vero è ben trovato. It's not true, it's a nice story.
Yeah, it is. But you returned to Holland
Yeah, because I thought
to
after
finish
2
high school. So education was important to you.
Well, I didn't think I was I would like to be a sailor on a, you know, again, it's quite regimented on a boat, you know.
Yeah.
And after a year, I quit the big boat and sailed on a small boat, a coaster, which was very loose and was wonderful.
Yeah.
But I thought after, you know, this is not the rest of my life. I can do something more. So I went back to school and finished school.
And you finished high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, in 1959, you immigrated to Canada.
Yeah.
Why immigrate when you were having so much fun?
I had to go in the army.
Ah.
And I said, I don't want to go. And then lying in my bed, I was February or something, I said, what am I going to do when I graduate? I don't want to go in the army. I said, I go to Canada.
Uh-huh.
So I phoned the next day I phoned to Canadian Immigration and said, I want to go to Canada. And they said, okay, and then we'll contact you. Then about 3 weeks later, they contacted me, and I'd totally forgotten about it. So the immigration, I had no idea why. They said, yeah, because you wanted to immigrate. I said, oh, yeah, that's right.
Now, you were in school. Had you gotten some money from being a sailor? Because people immigrating need money.
Well, my mother had some shares, and I got enough shares to buy a ticket.
Oh.
And I had $50 left when I came to Canada.
$50?
$50 and a little suitcase, and I didn't know anybody.
You came to Vancouver, right?
Well, what happened is I had to go to the embassy, and they got, you know, checked for health and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I talked to the doctor, and I said, where do you live? He said, Vancouver. I said, is Vancouver nice? He said, yeah, wonderful. You can sail and you can ski.
Lots of boats.
You can sail and you can ski. He had a sailboat and he skied and all that.
Yeah.
So the next room, they said, where do you want to go? I said, Vancouver. I said, well, sorry, we want to put you in Toronto. Because I said, no, my whole life I wanted to go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard of Vancouver before, 5 minutes before for the first time.
And so you did. Now, how did you survive at the beginning? Each immigrant has a story about survival.
Well, I had $50 was enough for a room and eating for 1 week. So I was on a Monday, and I had to find a job by Friday, and I got a job on Friday afternoon.
And your first job was in a paper mill?
Crown Zellerbach in Ocean Falls.
Which you did for about a year.
I did a year, and I made fantastic money, like $2.50, $2.35 an hour.
Apparently, you saved enough money to go to university, UBC.
at the UBC, yeah.
And in 64, you graduated in languages.
Yeah.
Did you do this for the sake of education, or did you have a plan?
No plan whatsoever. Just like I like languages. So when I was in Ocean Falls, one of my friends, she took a course in Russian, and so she had the book and all that. So I thought, hey, that's funny, I can't read it, so maybe I'll take Russian. So I took Russian.
And so after that, you worked for about a year, then went to graduate school. You graduated in educational psychology and media.
Yeah.
Educational television.
Yeah. Did a lot of television programs. And,
how did you decide to go into educational psychology?
I don't know, it just happened. I saw a TV program, educational, and I thought I can do better than that. So,
yeah.
And it was fun. Just, again, impetuous,
Yeah.
kind of making quick decisions as to what I like better.
No, you finished school.
I finished
in Canada.
I got a master's degree.
You don't stay. You go to Mexico for 1 year.
Yeah.
Another impetuous move?
Well, I was married at that time, so my wife we decided to go to Mexico because I didn't have a job anyhow. So we went to Mexico. I stayed a year in San Miguel Allende. And because I was my major was Spanish, I thought it was a good idea to go to Mexico and learn do my Spanish.
So you were not anxious to continue to work to work after school?
Never have.
Never have. You came back to Canada.
Came back to Canada.
And you worked every summer in the bush as a cook.
Well, that was during my university years, yeah.
Okay. So university years. You also worked one summer in a Japanese whaling boat.
Yeah, I've been a sailor, a whaler, a jailer,
so
no tailor.
So goes the song. You also did a part-time job at a sawmill. You painted while you were doing all of this.
No, I painted white lines on the street for a summer job. It's a little buggy and all that.
Street painting.
And I remember once we were at the top of Hastings Street, I think, or Groeneveld, and the buggy ran away from us and fell over, bang, all the paint over the street.
Now, in 70 or around 70, 71, you moved to Ontario.
Yeah.
Why did you leave beautiful Vancouver
Well, my wife had asthma in problems with asthma, so we moved away from the sea. So I got a job in Thunder Bay at the university.
Lakehead University. You taught Spanish.
And also worked in the media.
Yeah, audio, visual, and French at a college in Timmins.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was just thinking, before we go on, your wife seems to have had quite an impact on you. First, she makes you go to Mexico. Then she makes you...
Makes me go to Mexico, boy. I would have stayed there.
Oh, okay. So this is something you wanted. But coming to Ontario was not in your plans, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Okay.
I had a job offer, so I went.
Okay, so more...
I had to work sometimes,
Yeah. So you finally started to practice what you had specialized on in school, languages, media. This would have been sort of a gratifying experience for you, no? These first jobs?
Yeah, it was okay.
It was okay?
Yeah, it was okay, yeah.
Not fulfilling enough?
No, not enough, yeah.
No?
It wasn't exciting enough. And a lot of politics in the university with the staff. Oh.
Yeah. Now, you did not stay in Timmins. You didn't stay in northern Ontario.
Cold. It reminds me of this.
Have you said, sorry?
Cold.
It was too cold. You didn't stay there, and then for the next few years, the story of your employment experiences can be described as dazzling. I'm going to go through the list so that people understand how varied your job experience was. You took a position as a probation officer with the young offenders
I think first,
in North Bay, right?
my first, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you moved to Toronto with your wife. You couldn't get employment in Toronto, so you got a job in the penitentiary near Belleville. Stayed there for 5 years.
Yeah.
Returned to Toronto, and you got involved in staff training for the Ministry of Correctional Services. You stayed there from between 3 and 4
couple of
years.
years, yeah.
Let me just go through this list, and then we'll go back and talk about it. You took 1 year sabbatical in Nigeria.
Yeah, wonderful.
What did you do there?
I worked as a consultant in organizational development, management training, and
Okay.
reorganizing the organization if that's possible. But
Yeah.
wonderful job. It was one of the most exciting jobs I had.
Yeah. Then back in Toronto, you returned to the Ministry of Correctional Services as a consultant. So you continued to be a consultant. Then you got a position as training manager with the Ministry of Labor.
I also, in the meantime, I taught at Ryerson. That's
You
where
taught
I
at
met
Ryerson,
you.
night
That's where
courses.
That's where we met.
That's where we met. You taught night courses in organizational development. This was a part-time. Now that I've gone through this list, can you see? Can you remember any of this? Or was this just like a merry-go-round?
I remember it all.
What was the most interesting sort of position?
Well, the job at Ryerson was really interesting to teach.
Really?
Because, you had students, I don't like teaching high school because they're there. And even I found some of the students at Ryerson, do I have to know that? No. Is it on the exam? No. Well, I don't have to learn it then.
Yeah.
But I like the Ryerson students because they came in racing straight from a job and they wanted to learn and they were eager to learn. And
So you taught adults.
Oh yeah, and I had
At
some
Ryerson.
wonderful classes. I had one class,
Yeah.
half the class were policemen, and the other half were nurses, and they got along marvelous. I remember once I had to stand on the desk and say, "Hey, can I have your attention? I'm the teacher."
Now, by this time, you must have gotten very rich, Tom, because you retired at the age of 57.
Mm-hmm.
I know you continued to work for a while, but retirement at 57, when most of us mortals retired later.
Mm-hmm.
So, you retired because you could, right?
Because I could. The government had some scheme that they wanted to get rid of people, and they say if you decide to retire in the next 3 months, you can work for 3 more months before you retire.
Yeah.
But I thought I retired the next day, so instead of waiting 6 months, I retired the next day.
Yeah.
And on a Friday, I retired on a Friday, and remarried on a Saturday.
Remarried.
On a Saturday.
So you got a divorce from the previous wife, and
Yeah.
you lived with her for a while. 30 years, you told me before?
My first wife, yeah.
Wow. And then you remarried. Now, after retirement, you still continued to work for about 10 years as a consultant.
Yeah, on and off.
Traveled all over. Where'd you go?
Well, first of all, I got a job in South Africa.
Ah.
So I traveled to Zimbabwe and Mozambique and as part of my job and all that. Then I got a job in Cairo, and my wife at that time was born in Alexandria.
Yeah.
So, we lived in Cairo for 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And then I got some odd jobs. Then I went back to Toronto and I got some odd jobs in Georgetown, British Guyana.
Yeah.
In La Paz, Bolivia, in
Ecuador, I think you told me.
Ecuador, yeah.
Yeah.
Quito, Ecuador, and I don't know what else. Can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, Jakarta, yeah, also.
Jakarta, I think you told me for about 1 year
Yeah,
you were there.
working
British Guyana?
British Guyana, a couple of months.
Yeah.
And I traveled a lot, I went up to Essequibo River and wonderful.
But speaking of traveling, we turned the page to what I think is probably the busiest period of your life as far as traveling in a serious way. In a previous conversation, you told me that you wanted to sail since the age of 10. We talked a little bit about that. You talked a little bit about your grandfather being...
Yeah, that wasn't an inspiration. It was just something I heard, and
Yeah. Now,
But my brother went to the nautical school in Holland
oh yeah,
to become
Okay.
professional captain.
yeah,
And he sailed for a couple of years. In fact, he even
Yeah.
sailed to Vancouver one day
yeah,
and visited me when I was in Vancouver as a student.
yeah.
But he quit after a few years and became
Yeah.
a dentist.
A dentist. Well, there you go.
There I go. So he had a
Somebody had to be a dentist in
no,
your
but he had a
family.
pretty good life too, and then he had a good life as a dentist, and now he lives in France.
Yeah. Now you bought a sailboat
Yeah,
and you named it
Morning Light.
Morning Light, and I think we have a silhouette.
Yeah, but this was on a big boat.
Yes.
This was in Antarctica.
We're going to talk about Antarctica very soon. I think you had this boat for 12 years, right?
Yeah,
Now, you sailed mostly where?
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Yeah.
Yeah. You bought it in the United States, I think.
Yeah.
What kind of boat? Can you describe briefly the boat?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a big boat, small?
36 feet.
Yeah, yeah,
That was deep keel,
yeah. Good facilities.
built in Nova
inside.
Scotia.
Yeah, good
Solid boat.
yeah, facilities inside, obviously. Living conditions.
Oh yeah,
okay.
wonderful boat.
Yeah. So you did mostly the Caribbean. Any highlights you care to share with us, or
Well,
just sun and sand?
sun and sand and little islands. I remember I used to go. I sailed with a girlfriend for about 4 years, and then she missed the lights of Toronto, missed her kids and the
Did you
shop.
say girlfriend?
Yeah.
But you had married a second time.
Oh, and I was divorced at that time.
You were divorced a second time.
Yeah, and then I bought a sailboat.
Ah, okay.
So then I sailed, with Liz. She
Yeah.
came from Toronto, and
Yeah,
so we sailed for 4 years. And
yeah,
well, we went down the island chain, stayed
Yeah.
in Florida
Yeah.
for a while, and
yeah.
then ended up in Venezuela, Puerto La Cruz, and stayed there for a long time.
Venezuela, another country.
I love
You
Venezuela.
sold the boat in 2008, but you continued sailing. You sailed in somebody else's boat.
Couple of different boats. I took my boat. I think I put my boat on out of the water for a while, and then
Yeah,
I took a trip around the world.
that's right. You went around the world. Now, let's now concentrate on Antarctica. I think this picture here was taken in Antarctica, was it? Okay. Tell me about Antarctica.
Well, we were traveling, and traveling in Argentina, Peru. I went all the way South America. Ended up in Ushuaia, and I met a Dutch couple and a Swiss guy. And we were sitting there, and I said, what are we going to do next week? I said, well, let's go to Antarctica.
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, like that. And so we went to the travel agent, and so we had to get money because it was bloody expensive. So the Dutch couple had to phone their parents to get the money, and the Swiss guy had the money, like a Swiss, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had some money, so it was like about $6,000, $7,000 for 10 days.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we booked a trip to Antarctica.
What did you do there?
Oh, we did all kind of things. They had lectures and all that. First, we had to cross the Drake Passage.
Yes.
And almost everybody got seasick. I didn't.
Rough waters, eh?
Oh, terrible. I mean, there was two women on board, and they had been on a previous trip
Yeah.
and had to return because the storm was so bad that it smashed all the windows in the cabins. It was really bad. And then we got to Antarctica, and we canoed with the whales, and we were hiking up the mountain.
Yeah.
We slept on shore one night in the snow.
On the shore?
Yeah,
On the snow.
on the snow.
Tell me, how long did you stay in Antarctica?
8 days or so.
8 days. Let's talk about the desert. we're showing a picture of you in the desert. So you went from the land of ice to the land of sand.
The land of desert was long. This was when I worked in Cairo.
Yes, tell me about that.
Well, I worked in Cairo, and my wife had friends who lived in Agami, which is a suburb of Alexandria. So we rented an apartment there, and every weekend, every Thursday afternoon, we went there because Friday and Saturday were days off. So every Friday, Saturday weekend, we went to Agami, to the beach. And we went to the desert roads, like there's the agricultural road going from Cairo to Alexandria, and the desert road. So we took the desert road. And once, I think my wife was in Canada, I took the desert road, and instead of going to Alexandria, I went left. It says Wadi Natrun. And Wadi is well, and Natrun is natrium. So I went there, and I went in, and then I ended up in the sand. And there were a couple of Arab kids, and I said, "Hey, come in, tell me there's some monasteries here." Okay, so they showed us a couple of monasteries from the years 300.
So you met people in the desert?
Of course, well, it was a little village.
I see.
And so they took me to was one monastery from the year 400 and the one from 500 and 600. And there were two monasteries about 200 meters apart. So what happened 600 years ago, they got into a fight, so half the monastery left and built a new monastery up the road. So anyhow, so...
You also went to the Amazon.
Yeah, I went to the Amazon. It was not too long ago, actually, a couple of years ago.
Tell me about that experience.
Well,
You went up the river all the way to where? Peru?
Up the way to Peru and Colombia.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, what happened, I have friends in Brazil, so it was cold. So I thought I'd go visit them, and then I was in Salvador de Bahia.
Yes.
And I found my girlfriend in Holland, a Dutch girlfriend, another one.
Another girlfriend?
Yeah.
You've had as many girlfriends as places you visited, right?
No. We met in Venezuela a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I said, "Hey, it's cold weather in Holland. Come to Brazil." She said, "No, I'm busy." So 3 days later, she phoned. She said, "I got a flight and I'm coming for 6 weeks." So I thought I better do something interesting. So I booked a flight to Manaus. So we were in Salvador a couple of days, and we went to Manaus. And we walked the waterfront, and we saw a boat going up the river. So we thought, we'll book a cab and go up the boat. So we sailed for 6 days up the Amazon to Tabatinga. And Tabatinga is the corner, is Brazil, Colombia, and Peru.
Yeah, it's got the three.
So we crossed the border, and then we were in Rosario, I think it's called. I can't remember. And we saw another little boat, and we took that one further up the Amazon, and we stopped at a tiny little village, an Indian village, and we said, "Can we stay somewhere?" "Yeah, you can stay with Sarah and." So anyhow, we stayed in a tiny little Indian village, and it was nice, but no alcohol because they were very Christian and always church music. But he took us to the jungle because it was the high tide, rainy season. So
I've seen a picture of you hugging a big snake. Was this in the Amazon?
Yeah, it was in the Amazon. It was in Peru. We went to some wildlife reserve.
You're not afraid of this snake?
Yeah. I mean, what can he do?
Kill you.
So, I had a good life, Not that easy to...
Yeah, but if you're dead, then you can't travel
I know,
anymore.
but there were people around and all that. So, no, it was 5 meters and 30 kilos. Very slippery and heavy, but beautiful animal.
I bet. Yeah.
So it was good.
Now, let's just go back a little bit to when you were traveling in somebody else's boat. You told me you jumped ship in the Philippines.
In Fiji.
Oh, in Fiji?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't get along with the owner, right?
No, he was a Dutch guy, a difficult guy. Very violent,
Oh, violent.
Yeah,
Because if he was just difficult, then I was going to say he was like you.
Much bigger than I was.
Oh, much bigger. Bigger than the snake, I'm sure.
And stronger, yeah.
Then you met a female friend in Curacao, towards Southeast Asia, Europe. That's another chapter of your
Oh yeah, I traveled a
traveling
lot in
life, right?
Southeast Asia.
Yeah. Where did you go specifically?
Malaysia, Indonesia, of course.
Yeah.
Malaysia, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. Yeah, Australia.
Yeah. Is there any place on earth that you would like to travel to that you haven't yet?
Yeah, I hope I have one big trip left. I want to go from Portugal to St. Petersburg,
Ah,
then take the train across to Ulaanbaatar,
yes.
and then take the Silk Road back all the way.
Yeah. You mentioned Portugal because that's where you kind of live now.
I
You
live
in
in
the
Portugal
Algarve.
half the time. Yeah,
Uh,
Tavira.
Tavira, nice town. How did you decide to stay put for a while in Portugal?
Very impetuous decision again.
Again,
I was in, I think it was Sibiu in Romania,
yes.
and there was going to be a concert in a church. So I was standing in front of the church, and there was a woman standing next to me, and when
Another woman?
yeah, and Carla, and then we decided we were in the wrong church. So there was no concert. So I said, well, let's have a beer. She said, okay. So we had a beer, and then we had dinner. And then we traveled together to a heavy metal concert festival,
Heavy metal.
in Sibiu. And it was wonderful music, but I usually stayed about a kilometer away.
Yeah. And then what? What happened?
And then she went that way, I went that way. She said, come and visit me sometime. I live in Tavira, Portugal.
Ah,
I said, okay, I'll visit you sometime.
and you did.
So a couple of years later, I thought, I'm looking for a warm place. I like the European ambience and
Yeah.
going around the corner, having a glass of wine. I would have really liked to live in Thailand, but it's a different culture.
So you're now here with me in Toronto, but you're going to go back to Tavira, where you will live
If
for a
possible,
while.
tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah. Is Portugal your last frontier? Or
Oh, who knows? I mean,
who knows?
Who knows? Never say never.
Never say never.
No, because I was in Sicily. I loved Sicily. Wonderful country.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Agrigento and
Now, Tom, looking back, what was the most rewarding experience of your life? Can you mention one?
actually
or-
buying a sailboat,
Yeah,
living on it for 12 years.
yeah.
Was not easy, but wonderful, very interesting.
Yeah.
Lovely life.
The biggest lesson from all of this.
Do what you want to do and don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow may never come. I had so many people said, "Oh, I would love to come with you on a sailboat." I said, "Come." Yeah, but.
But.
I had a very good friend, and he was an orchid collector, and he always wanted to go to Morocco, but he was waiting for a cheap flight, and the cheap flight never came, and he died, and he had lots of money.
Now, with the exception of your early experience in the concentration camp and ensuing difficulties, would you do everything all over again?
No,
What would you not do?
I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't get married. I don't know.
So that's a bit of a regret that you did
No,
that?
but it was sometimes difficult, and it really cuts down your freedom.
Yeah,
I could have sailed earlier.
you could have sailed earlier. Now, before we go, and
But I don't regret getting married at all.
yeah,
I just regret it didn't work out.
yes,
And I think it was a lot of my fault. I was very immature, and I do have some issues,
Yeah.
some baggage that I carry with me.
yeah. Now, before we finish this conversation, I wish I could go forever with you, but I want to talk about the environment because I have a feeling that you're a lover of nature. Obviously, in your travels, you're looking for experiences with nature.
Yeah,
The desert,
nature and people.
the mountains, the people you meet, and so on. But the environment is nowadays being talked about like never before. It's under stress. What are your thoughts?
It's the garbage. Unbelievable. I mean, I was in Irian Jaya, which is a province of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea. And the garbage coming down the river and in the harbor was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I had some good talks with the governor there. He invited me over to his place. And I said, I can help you set up a plan and see if we can get some Japanese help containers and get rid of all the garbage. But it's almost impossible. There's so much garbage in those countries. In Africa too, Mozambique. I mean, in Egypt, we had in Agami, it was a complex, and they had a private beach.
Yeah.
So people couldn't go, and they cleaned it every day. But you took one step, and an Egyptian family was sitting there, and when they finished, table with everything thrown on the beach, diapers, containers with food, everything, and nobody cleaned it. The dogs ate it, but not everything. And when you go on the highway, you see people opening the window, throwing things out the highway.
So behavior has to change if
totally.
the madness is to be
Education.
Yeah.
But even, I was in a bus, and I don't know where it was, somewhere. But an educated girl, student, opened the window and threw her stuff out. And I started to talk to her. Don't you learn anything about the environment in school? Yeah, we do. So why do you throw it out?
Yeah.
Well, there's no garbage can to put it in.
Yeah.
There are no garbage cans at all.
Yeah. In the end, it's education, but it's also a collective effort to...
It's a lack of discipline.
Yeah.
Like, they stopped it in Singapore. You throw something on the floor, on the ground, $100 fine.
You get fined.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you think politicians should be a little tougher?
Politicians should be a little less corrupt. Because,
Yeah. Now, I have one more question for you. When is the book coming out?
It takes a lot of discipline to write a book. I started out a couple of times, and I've written some notes in a couple of notebooks. Maybe one day when I get around.
Can you not impetuously start this book?
Oh, I did impetuously, but I also finished it impetuously. I stopped.
What would the title be if you wrote a book?
May you live an interesting life.
May you live an interesting life?
Or something like, glimpse out of a life, or something, glimpse from a different life.
What would be the main message?
Do what you want to do.
Again.
Don't wait till that time, golden time in the sky comes, because it might never come.
Speaking of time, we're finished here. I'm so sorry, because I did want to talk to you more about your travels.
So do.
Maybe there will be a part 2 to this interview.
Yeah, sure.
When you come back from Tavira to visit us again.
I'll probably be back in the summer.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tom, for sharing
Take care, Bill.
your remarkable life path.
Nice to meet again.
Nice to meet again. Thank you. And we thank the audience for being with us. Until next time. Thank you.